Hey everybody, I'm Dwayne Laughlin. I'm here in our Grand Magic Theater in Colon, Michigan. Looking forward to whenever the time might be that you could come in person and visit us here and see what we're doing in this place. But also thankful that until that happens, we can communicate by means of video. And this in particular is a video teaching session that comes about in response to a request. Recently I received an email from a person and he was asking me about putting together a show. He's been doing magic for a couple years, and he's worked hard. He's mastered some tricks. He's done a really good job with these tricks, learning them. But now he's being asked to do some programs, and he basically wants to know, how do I decide? What trick do I do first? What trick do I do second? What trick do I do third? And so on. And to his credit, at least he realizes that the right trick needs to be in the right place. I think there are some who are in magic and they don't understand how a program should be properly paced. They don't seem to get it that there's more to a magic show than just a hodgepodge of tricks where we're showing people what we can do that supposedly they can't figure out. There should be a lot more than that involved. A show should be an experience that begins properly, flows properly, and ends properly. So the question is, how do we make this happen? And as I thought about how to respond to him, I realized that this is something others might be interested in as well. I've written on this subject over the years. I've published things on this over the years. But as I went back in my files, I realized it was a long time ago I dealt with some of this. In fact, the first time I published something on show structure, it was an audio series with cassettes. So that tells you how long ago it was. And so as I realized it's been a while since I've done anything in terms of recently talked about this, I thought, well, it should be good to revisit the whole matter so I can answer this one question that came to me directly and also talk about it to others who might be wondering, and even those who would say, well, I know how to put a show together. If you really do know how to put a show together, I think you already will be one who appreciates the reminders, the refreshers, the opportunity to rethink this matter. I will say, in putting together this particular video program, I gave myself a really serious challenge because I wanted to keep this under an hour. And it's not going to be easy to do because there's so much to say and there's so much material that could be included. Really, the hardest thing for me in preparation was deciding what not to say, what I don't have time to say, so I need to leave it out. And actually, as I was working through that process, I thought, in the near future, maybe we should have a whole day here at our theater where we all can come in. I hope you can come in for it. And if not, we'll try to also video it. But where we just come in and we spend a day together talking about how to put together a great show and how to structure a show. So once again, the question is, how do we decide what our show order or show structure is going to be? Imagine that you've got a phone call. Phone rings and you're all excited. Somebody wants to book you for, let's say, a banquet show coming up. You're supposed to do around 45 minutes. And you say, well, of course. And when the phone call's over, you're thinking, yay, I finally have a show. And then it hits you, a show. What is this going to look like? So you walk into your magic room and you start looking at all the stuff you have stacked up and you say, I think I remember how to do that trick. Maybe I'll do it first. And yeah, I think I can do this one too, and it might fool somebody. I'll do it second. Is that how you put a show together? I hope not. There is a specific way to think in structuring a show, and I wouldn't be surprised if many who are listening to this right now have never heard what I'm about to share. And that is, generally speaking, any and every show should be built around a psychological framework. We call it a formula. It's psychological in that it's not about props, it's not about tricks, it's not even about effects. It's about the feelings and emotions people in an audience will have while they watch us, and the feelings and emotions that they need to have. Look at this statement. To be a success as a performer, we must connect with the audience on an emotional level and fulfill their emotional expectations. This is an absolutely critical concept to understand. If we do not connect with our audience emotionally, we fail. If all we do on the intellectual basis is puzzle them and confuse them, we've not even come close to putting on a good show. And to be specific, this means we follow a particular chain of felt experience. And the chain starts with a sense of excitement that we have to create. And then the next thing is a sense of identity. People feel like they understand what's going on. Then after that, we make the audience feel like they're a part of what's going on. Then we provide them with solid content they will appreciate. And at the end, we confirm that the overall experience was terrific. So I'm going to say it again. A great show is a result of creating an emotional experience, a great emotional experience for an audience. And I know that sometimes it gets annoying when a speaker is repetitive, but I'm purposely repetitive right now. I want to say it again. I think this is so crucial, and I will tell you this is something that took me a long time to learn. And that is, a great show is the result of creating a great emotional experience for an audience. Even though magic is about tricking and puzzling people, it's not about the intellectual experience. That is involved, and it's a very important aspect, but it's most of all about the emotional experience. Why? Because when people come to a show, they come to a show to have a good time. A good time has to do with emotion. While the show is going on, they want to feel good about it. They want to enjoy it. This is emotion. When the show's over, we hope they'll feel elated that they were here at the show, and of course they hope they'll leave elated. Elation is emotion. So people come with an emotional desire. Maybe they've not consciously thought this through, but it's definitely something they feel, and therefore we have to fulfill that emotional desire. So we build our show around the felt needs of an audience. How do we do this? Well, we start by understanding that the first thing to achieve has to do with excitement. Now, there might be other ways of defining this or stating this, I should say, and maybe other people who would teach on this subject would say it a bit differently, but I think it always comes down to fundamentally this general concept that I call excitement. When we're putting together a show, we walk into the magic room. First thing we're looking for is what kind of trick or routine do we have that is exciting. Exciting in the sense that it's upbeat in nature. You might say it has a great energy to it. And it's something that is impressive. It's something entertaining. It's something that's going to happen fast. And why is this so important? Because the audience has arrived at the show with a sense of excitement. I mean, they're sitting out there waiting for it to start. The excitement builds. You've heard that phrase. And along with excitement, there might even be a little bit of anxiety because they're wondering, is this going to be a good experience? Am I going to be glad I was here? Or am I going to regret the fact that I had to sit through it? And because they have this sense of excitement, and there's also a little bit of tension involved where the anxiety issue of, I hope it is what I expect it to be, what the performer needs to do is immediately connect with that and deliver the message that, yes, you were right to be excited about this, and yes, this is going to be everything you expected it to be. In fact, it's very likely this will even exceed your expectations. Now, this is why classic variety shows start with an upbeat song and dance number, and usually a lot of dancers out on the stage in beautiful costumes and great music. And what happens is it's like a visual and an audio feast for the audience, and people are thinking immediately, wow, this is going to be everything I thought it was going to be. This is why James Bond movies start with explosions and chase scenes and surprises, and before you ever see the credits, you've seen so many amazing things happen, you say to yourself, this is all there is to it, it would already be a great movie. This is why good speeches and good sermons often begin with a fascinating story that's likely also humorous. And that is, good communicators know that at the very beginning of a presentation, it's vital to signal to an audience that they have entered into an experience that's going to be every bit as wonderful and worthwhile as they hoped it would be. Now, a quick little pause. I'm at the theater here today. We have lights that are on motion sensors, I should say. And apparently I'm not moving enough to keep all the lights on. So if you see the lighting in the camera switch a little bit while I'm talking, now you know what it's about. I will ignore it from this point forward, and you can too. Now, what we're saying is that a show has to be built around a psychological framework or formula. The first part of the formula is excitement. So when your show begins, it's more important that the first trick or routine be something that is happy, something that is fun, something that is upbeat. It's more important that it be that than it be your most baffling trick. For example, do not start the show with a mind-reading routine where you ask somebody to pick a number, and then you go through some convoluted or maybe complicated sequences. And it's not until 3 or 4 minutes later that the number that they have chosen, or whatever the idea is, the thing that they've chosen, it's not until later that it's finally revealed. It takes a while to get to the payoff in that kind of a trick. And early in a show, that's not what an audience is ready for. Early in a show, they don't want to work that hard. They don't want to think that hard. Later in a show, that kind of trick and routine might work great, but at the start of the show, people want to smile, laugh, clap, and cheer, and so you need to do something right away that's going to allow them to smile, laugh, clap, and cheer. Meet that expectation. Connect with that sense of excitement. I'll give you an example of this. And by the way, just so you know, I'm not going to be a talking head on this presentation. I am going to show you magic as this progresses to illustrate each point. And now I'll show you a routine that I very often use to start a show. I'm introduced, and as I walk out, I smile at the audience, and I'll say, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here's something I saw a long time ago. When I saw it, it baffled, it bothered, it bewildered me. It had to do with a gentleman who had a red handkerchief in his hand, and I could tell that's all he had. In fact, I saw there was his left hand, there was his right hand, he had a red handkerchief, that was it. So I could not believe my eyes when he began to push that red handkerchief into his hand, and suddenly I saw that it was turning into a white handkerchief. I saw less red, I saw more white. In fact, soon I realized absolutely, completely, positively, that handkerchief had become white right before my eyes. When that happened, I clapped my hands and cheered. But then I said to myself, I wonder how he does it. What is the secret to the color-changing handkerchief? I finally learned the secret. Shall I share it with you? All right. I discovered that sneaky gentleman had 2 handkerchiefs. Who would have thought of that? Here's what he did. Before the show began, he took one of his handkerchiefs, he pushed it down into his fist. As he did so, he was very careful to keep his fist closed and to make sure no pieces or corners of the handkerchief would stick out. And once it was tightly in his fist, he continued to keep the fist closed, because if he had opened his fist, people would have known he has a red handkerchief hiding in that hand. He didn't want them to know about the red handkerchief hiding in this hand, so he kept it closed. Then all he had to do is take his other handkerchief, push it into the hand, and switch it for the red one that was already there. Well, once I knew this is what he was doing, I said, I can do it too. I was pushing the white one in. I was pulling the red one out, pushing the white one in, pulling the red one out. And I made this mistake. This is not good, folks. This is a clue that I have 2 handkerchiefs, and you don't want to give the audience this kind of clue. So if I ever make this mistake, I get rid of the red handkerchief. Watch carefully. I'll just go ahead and put it away down here. It's down there. So you understand the red handkerchief is down there? Good. Because if you know the red handkerchief is down there, if I push the white one in and I pull the red one out, since we know it's actually down there, there's a chance, a small chance, that we'll be just as baffled, bothered, and bewildered as I was the first time I ever saw this happen. And that, my friends, is the secret to the color-changing handkerchief. I hope you don't mind. I shared it with you. So that's how my show would start. So that was the first thing I do. I just walk out and right away I get into the trick. And I'll talk about how it connects to the next thing in a moment. But the point is, it happens quickly. And even though it's a 3-minute routine, there's a number of things that happen. So the tricks start happening right away. And there's some jokes, there's some surprises along the way. It's a feel-good kind of presentation. And when it's over, the audience is saying to themselves, hey, this looks good. I think we're going to have a good time. This show is going to be what I hoped it would be. Now again, we're talking about how do you put together a show. And I'm saying that when you start to prepare a show, the first thing you do is you look for a trick or routine that happens at a fast pace, that has a real good feel to it, it's upbeat, it's exciting. And my recommendation is that you literally create a chart for preparing a show. And on the chart, you have the word excitement. And then you start thinking about the tricks and routines you have, and you say, well, which ones belong in this category? Which tricks and routines do I have that have this fun, upbeat, really entertaining feel? And those are the ones that you put under excitement, and they are also then the ones that you're going to use to open your show. Now, once you understand that, then the next thing that happens is we need to accomplish what I call identification. This is a psychological need. I call it identification. You might also call it personality. And what it means is now that you've done something interesting, the audience is interested in who you are as a person, as a human being. Until you do something interesting, the audience really is not interested in who you are as a human being. I mean, why should they care who you are? Why should they care to know about you? Because you haven't done anything that gives them a sense that they would want to know. But once you impress them, once you've done something that causes them to think, wow, this person is special, then they become interested in knowing who you are. Now, relating to this, a common mistake made by new performers or uninformed performers is they want to start a show by talking to people and telling them who you are. I mean, how many of you would start a show by walking out and saying, hi, how y'all doing? My name is Dwayne, or whatever your name is. And sometimes we do this because we're nervous, we don't have confidence, and so we're just kind of hoping to be nice to the audience and maybe they'll like us, and then we'll start the tricks. So, you know, my name's Dwayne, and I'm from such and such a place, and I've been doing magic quite a while, and it's kind of a hobby, but maybe it's going to turn into a profession, and you're telling them all this stuff, and they don't care to hear it. They don't want to hear it. They want to know, what are you going to do? In fact, if you start this little speech about who you are and you know, the fact that you're just trying to learn how to do what you do, they're going to think this is going to be boring. I don't want to sit through this. So the bottom line in this is that people don't care who you are. They don't care where you're from. They don't care how long you've been doing magic or anything like that. They don't care about that at the start of the show. They just want you to do something. So it's much better to start the show by doing something. But once you've done that thing that is exciting, once you've done that good trick, then you do want to tell them who you are, where you're from, or whatever else you want to get into, because these people, now they're interested. And so what we're saying, very simply, as we follow this structure, is the first thing you do is you've created a sense of excitement. Once that's accomplished, now you want a personality piece. If you're creating a chart, write the word identification on it, and then understand that identification means you want a trick that helps the people get a sense of your identity, who you are as a human being. I'll give you an example of this. I've just finished the color-changing handkerchief, and the end line is, I hope you don't mind, I shared it with you. And now I move from excitement to identity and say, hey, hello everybody, my name's Dwayne Laughlin. I live in Colon, Michigan. It's the magic capital of the world. And it's a place that specializes in illusions. And that's what I happen to specialize in as well. In fact, I'm an illusionist. And an illusionist shows people illusions, so here's an illusion. It's called the illusion of a piece of rope. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, that's not an illusion. That actually is a piece of rope. But no, it's an illusion. You say, well, it's got to be a real rope because I see the middle, I see the ends, and a real piece of rope has a middle, it has two ends. And I say, well, look more carefully, and you might realize why we call this as an illusion, because actually you see 1, 2, 3 ends. Then someone says, oh, well, maybe it's 2 ropes. No, if it was 2 ropes, there would be 4 ends. See, 2 ropes would look like this, but this doesn't look like this because all we have is one end over here, and then we've got this other end over here and an end down there, and the whole thing is really acting kind of crazy, is it not? And in spite of that, it looks like one rope, just an illusion. Now we'll add to that the illusion of tying a knot. Watch carefully. This is the illusion of tying a knot. And you say, well, that's not an illusion. That's a knot. So is it a knot or is it not? Did I tie a knot or did I not? Was it an illusion or was it not an illusion? Well, actually, it was not an illusion, or maybe I should say it was an illusion because I didn't tie just one knot. You see another knot. You see another knot. Folks, that's a pretty good trick, is it not? And I want you to know that everything I do in my show is truly an illusion. It's truly a trick. God does miracles. I do tricks and illusions. And in the process of doing the illusions, of course, we have the opportunity to enjoy ourselves. That's really what this show is about. Now, that's, I'm going to cut it off right there. But I think you get the idea that the trick identifies me as an illusionist. It identifies the concept of illusion, and it expresses the fact that I'm there to have fun. It conveys my personality. In a sense, it gives the audience a glimpse into my humanity. And those of you who are gospel magicians, I think you'll recognize that this is the place in your show where you take time to present that disclaimer. People who are worried as to whether or not there should be a magician in church or we should do magic tricks in church, this is that place where you identify that it's just tricks and illusions, only God does real miracles, and so on. But the point is, as far as the psychology of a show and the psychology of an audience, they don't care who you are until you've given them a reason to care. So you start with this exciting thing. Once you've given them a reason, they do care about who you are. They do want to know you. So the second step in your show structure is doing a trick that somehow gives people insight into who you are. So you're putting together that chart. You've already started with the word excitement. You've already listed some tricks that are fun, upbeat, happy kind of tricks. Now you're looking at identification, and you ask yourself, well, what tricks do I have that I feel like really convey my personality? And help people get a sense of who I am, and maybe explain a little bit of what it means to be a magician. What do I have that does that? You list those in the second category, and they are going to be the second portion of your show. And once we understand that, we move to the next part of the psychological structure, and I call it involvement. And here is something that's just absolutely critical. And that is, the audience must feel like they are part of the show. I have a saying for you. It's simple, but absolutely profound, and please look at it carefully. And in fact, make up your mind not to forget it. Are you ready? Here's the statement. For it to be a great show, rather than them and me, it must be us. To be a great show, rather than them and me, it must be us. To have a great show, we must make the audience feel like they are our friends and that we have become their friend. We certainly do not want a situation where the audience just feels like they're spectators, people sitting out there in row upon row to judge what we're doing. If that's the situation, they're just sort of staring at us and deciding, do I like what I see or not? We are in trouble, and it's not going to be fun. But if somehow instead we can get the audience to think, hey, I'm part of this. Hey, this is we're all in this together. If we can establish that kind of feeling or mentality, then it puts us in a great situation to succeed. So, obviously, this is the part of the show where you do an audience participation routine. And before the pandemic and before social distancing, it was very easy to do audience participation routines. Basically, you just say, I need a volunteer, and somebody would come up on stage, and you could interact with those people and start kind of building a relationship with that person, and by way of how you relate to that person, you relate to the entire audience. It used to be easier to do than it is now, but we can still do it now. And so I'm going to give you an example of an audience participation routine, a routine that's designed to build a relationship, even though I don't bring anyone on stage. So I just finished the rope trick, and I say, speaking of enjoying ourselves, I'd like to make a new friend. So let me see, out here, I see a gentleman back there. Sir, what's your name? William? All right, William, where are you from? You're from Sturgis, Michigan? Well, thanks for making the trip up here, folks. Everybody, welcome William. I can't hardly say that. Welcome William to the show. And William, you got some friends with you, some family with you? All right. Well, folks, you're going to enjoy watching how well William does with this, because he's about to play the guessing game with me. Now, the guessing game involves a little cup and a red ball. A cup and a red ball. And all you have to do, William, is guess what I'm doing. Like right now, watch carefully. What do you think I did? Did I take the ball out of the cup and put it down here, or did I leave it under the cup? What do you think, William? You think I put the ball back here? You're absolutely right. So far, so good. Let's clap our hands and cheer for William. So we try it again, okay? So watch carefully now. William, this time I do the same motion and guess. Where is the ball? Did I put it away again, or is it under the cup? What do you think? You think I put it away? Well, you were close, William, but actually it's under the cup. We'll try it again. We'll make it more complicated. Watch carefully now. I take the ball. You have to decide. Is the ball now in my left hand? Is it in the cup? Or is it down here under the table? Where do you think it is? I'll give you a clue. It's not in my hand. Is it under the table? Or is it under the cup? Oh, I shouldn't have showed you that, William, because obviously now you know it's under the cup. So I've got an idea. Let's try it this way. I'll put the ball right here. Can you see it, William? All right. So where's the ball? You say it's on top of the cup? Well, you were close, but actually this is the bottom of the cup, see? This would be the top of the cup, but if we put it in the top of the cup, it falls into the cup. So let's do it like this instead. Here we go. And by the way, thanks for being such a good sport, William. Where is the red ball? Where? You think it's back? He's catching on, folks. Let's clap and cheer for William. That was awesome. I think he's going to beat me in the game. Okay, so again now, watch. Oh, let's do it like this way. A little more complicated. Is the red ball here? Is the red ball there? Is the red ball down under the table? What do you say, William? In my hand, you were close. Under the cup? No, that's not it. That's a smiley face there, William. So the red ball must be down here. It has to be down here. Why does it have to be down there? Well, there's no way it could be under the cup, because under the cup, we've got ourselves a baseball. And that's the guessing game. And William, I can't thank you enough for being such a good sport. All right? So that's where it ends. And obviously, I don't really have an audience here, but you see what I'm doing? I'm learning somebody's name, I'm teasing him, I'm interacting him. It's kind of like we're playing a game together. And what's happening is I'm creating the us feeling. That they're not just up there watching some performer and they don't really know him and they're just here to see what he's doing. But instead, they're having fun, and this is a group experience. This is a chop cup routine. The purpose of this lecture is not to talk about handling, so I'll just move on. Let me grab my notes again. Currently, my favorite audience participation routine with social distancing is our big spelling board. And you'll find that at laughlandmagic.com. It's a big word that's spelled out. And then what we do is we have 7 people from the audience. We say they don't have to come up on stage. They stay out where they are. We learn their names. We let them make choices. We interact with them. And when all is done, they've magically spelled a word. I love that trick. It's my go-to trick right now. But I assumed a lot of you watching this will have seen me do that, so I thought I'd do the chop cup for you just to show you that there are other ways to accomplish the same thing. So what am I talking about? For a show to be a great show, it can't be them and me, it must be us. And we're talking about putting together a show on the basis of the psychology of an audience and its needs. Needs it feels and needs it may not even know it has, but it has them. And the needs are first excitement, then a sense of identity. Where are we? What's going on here? And then a sense of involvement. We are in this together. So under the audience involvement, obviously you're going to list your good audience participation tricks. Now this brings us to the 4th aspect of a show. And the next words then you put on your chart are solid content. Solid contents. Content. The audience did come to this show, it did come to this program expecting to see magic. They came to see a magician. And now that they're excited, now that they feel like they know what's going on, now that they feel part of it, they're ready to find out what a magician can do. So there's a sense in which at this point in the program, the audience is ready to sit back and just see what the magician can do. If you've done your job leading up to this, you've put them in the mood to be a good audience. They're ready to watch some good magic. So here's where you show them some good tricks. And as long as you keep your patter crisp and you do the tricks well, they're going to keep on watching and they're going to feel good about what they're seeing. So this means, under the word solid content, you create a list of tricks that are good tricks that you're able to do. They don't have to be upbeat tricks at this point. They don't have to be funny tricks at this point. They don't even have to be audience participation tricks at this point. As long as they're good tricks and they're presented well, the audience will be happy. Now I'm going to say more about this. We'll circle back to this toward the end of this presentation. But right now, let's get back into literally demonstration mode. So I opened with the color changing silks, create a sense of excitement, kind of confirming that idea that this is going to be fun. I did the rope trick to explain, that I'm a magician, what an illusion is. I did the chop cup to get the audience involved, to learn a name, to feel like we're all in this together. We've just finished applause for the chop cup and applause for the gentleman. And then I say, now folks, let me talk to you more about what you're seeing. This is the art of illusion. And one of the techniques of the illusionist is something known as sleight of hand. Maybe you've heard the saying, the hand is quicker than the eye. We're going to think about this together, and to do so, you need to keep your eye on the ball. So keep one eye on the yellow ball, one eye on the red ball, and one eye on the green ball. You might not have enough eyes, but do the best you can. So watch carefully. Red ball goes into the hand first, like that. Green ball into the hand second, like that. Yellow ball, well, we'll put it right down there. So the question is, how many in the hand? 2? Well, remember, we've got a green ball, we've got a yellow ball, we've got a red ball. Maybe I better do it again. The question is the hand quicker than the eye? This time the green ball, you see it go into the hand like that. Red ball goes into the hand like that. You see me put the yellow ball down here like that. So, how many in the hand? By the way, I really did put the yellow ball away. How many in the hand? 3? Yep, we've got a red one, we've got a yellow one, we've got a green one. I might be going too fast. I'll slow it down a bit for you. Slow it down for the people back there and for the person right here. So watch carefully. We start with the yellow ball into the hand like that. Yellow ball is number 1. We'll follow it up with a green ball, number 2. The red one, this time we'll put it away. So the question is, how many in the hand? I've had children shout out like 6. I don't know what they were thinking, because actually I don't have any in the hand. Maybe the hand really is quicker than the eye. And now that we've explained that, let's go back to something you saw earlier. Remember at the beginning I had a trick with a red handkerchief and a white handkerchief? Well, I doubt that you'd be wondering this, because you probably don't know it exists, but you could be wondering, well, what would happen if you used a red and a white handkerchief with the tube of mystery? Anybody out there wondering this? Okay. Well, take a look. This is the tube of mystery. That's right. Right now you're saying the mystery is, what's it going to do? But I'll show you. You take 2 handkerchiefs, a red one and a white one, and you push them into your tube. Sometimes you use a magic wand. We may need that, so here we go. The red one and the white one go into the tube. We'll put them in at this end with a little help from the magic wand. And then we tap on the tube to make them pass all the way through the tube of mystery. And as they do, they change. You'll see what I mean. Look at that. They pass through the tube of mystery, and now the red one has changed into a white one, and the white one has changed into a red one, and there's nothing else in the tube. Isn't that awesome? I don't know why, but it never gets the response I hoped it would. We'll try it again. So we put the red and the white handkerchief into the tube of mystery. Oh, I know. Somebody out there says, well, if you were really a good magician, you can maybe turn those handkerchiefs into a picture of a rabbit. It's going to be difficult, but I'll try. A little magic wand, a little tap, and look at that. We have a, whoops, that's not a rabbit. That's a skunk. What's going on here? Something must not quite be right with the tube. But anyway, by the way, did you hear about the skunk who went to church? Sat in his own pew. Offering plate came by, he gave a cent. And I think he got down on his knees and sprayed, but that's not the subject right now. We're trying to find a rabbit. We'll try one more time. Frankly, this is a very difficult thing to do. But since I have the tube of mystery and I have the magic wand, and since I'm not going to give up on this matter, we'll try again. Wouldn't it be amazing if finally we really did find, coming up and out of our tube of mystery, a great big rabbit? If that happened, the audience would probably clap their hands and cheer. And that, my friends, is what it likes when the tube of mystery does what it's supposed to do. Okay, now I'm going to quit right there. And remember, this is not a lecture about tricks and, I'm kind of rushing some of the routines. This is rather a lecture about show structure. And what I was just illustrating was solid content. So I'm saying we are at the point in the show where we're going to do a series of tricks depending on the time we have. We might do, it could be one trick. If we have a long time, it could be 2 or 3 or 4 or more. But it's just a series of good, fun tricks that are, of course, designed for the age of the audience. If there's kids, the routine I just did, they'd especially like. If it's adults, I might do something different. But you know what I'm talking about. You just, at the content portion of the show, you do a series of good tricks folks are going to like to see. Now, I'll get back to this, the solid content, but I want to move on. After you've done the tricks that you need to do to fill the time that you have, you're going to get toward the end of your show. And this is where we come to the last part of our psychological formula or framework, which is confirmation. And it took me a number of years as a performer to come to understand the importance of this concept. And that is the last thing we do in a show needs to give the audience the message that the show was a terrific and worthwhile experience. Shall I say it again? The last thing we do in the show needs to give the audience the message that this was a terrific and a worthwhile experience. In my younger days, I thought that figuring out what to do as the last thing in the show was easy, because I thought the last thing in the show should be your biggest trick, or your most expensive trick, or your most amazing trick. You know, if you actually owned a stage illusion, that would be the last thing you do. Or maybe you have a big square circle, so the last thing you do is you produce as much as you can out of your square circle. I didn't know that there's something else that needs to be accomplished that's much more important. And that is the last thing in the show, more important than being big and better and more and so on, more important than that, it needs to be meaningful, and it needs to create a sense of goodwill. I'm at a stage in my life where I really like to watch magic on DVDs, but I almost never buy a DVD that teaches tricks. I buy show DVDs. Any chance I get to see footage of someone's show, that's what I want to see and study. I know a lot of tricks. What I'm wanting to learn is, how do people artistically and with great showmanship present these tricks? So I love studying shows, and my favorite is Lance Burton. He has a DVD out called Secrets of Magic. It was produced on the mass market a number of years ago. But this particular DVD shows 3 full-length versions of Lance's stage show in Las Vegas. And on one of the shows, there's just a remarkable thing that he does. It's a big show, mega illusions, but he gets to the end of the show, and instead of this huge stage and huge illusion, you see Lance, if I remember correctly, he's like by a little stool, and he does a torn and restored napkin, a simple, basic trick that most of us learn when we start. From the napkin, he produces a little parakeet, and he tells us the name of the parakeet is Elvis. And then the little parakeet is going to disappear. He makes it disappear. And he says, Elvis has left the building, and that's where the show ends. And it's genius. It's simple, but something about his little story and his intimate trick makes people feel wonderful. It makes them feel good about what they're seeing. It makes them feel good about themselves. So here's this man with this big show in Las Vegas, mega illusions, but he closes with a little torn and restored napkin. And the lesson in that, for all of us, is that the show needs to finish in a way that makes the audience walk out being really glad they were there, not just amazed. If people walk out saying, I don't know how he did that, and that's all they're saying and all they're thinking, we failed. Because there's more to a magic show than just them not knowing what we did. They need to walk out saying, I loved it. What a great time. I can't wait to come back again. If I have a chance to tell people about the show, I'm going to tell them don't miss it. That's what we want them to walk away with. And if they're going to walk away with that kind of feeling, the last thing they see really needs to make them feel good. I'll give you an example. I did this for our Facebook Live lecture last week, and I know a lot of you maybe missed that, so I'll share it with you now. It's a routine, and it's a new routine for me, but I think it conveys what I'm trying to say. So imagine, maybe I've just done a big trick, maybe a big levitation or something. And we come out for what the audience thinks is a final bow. And then I say, folks, I've got one thing I'd like to leave you with. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the fact that all of us have an opportunity in this world to make a difference, to share a little bit of our heart with people who are around us. There's a story about two guys who were walking along the seaside after a storm, and a lot of starfish had washed up on the shore, and they were starting to dry out and die. One of the men picked up a starfish, and he tossed it back out into the ocean. The other fellow said, "Why'd you do that?" He said, "Well, so it won't die. It'll get wet back out there. It'll live." And the first fellow said, "Well, look at all these starfish. We can't save them all." And the man said, "No, but I saved that one." And there's different ways the story's told, but the idea is maybe none of us can change the world, but we can still make a difference to someone. But this business of sharing your heart's a little bit scary, a little heart shape here. Because right now we live in a world where there's a lot of divisiveness, a lot of disagreement, a lot of criticism, a lot of negativity. And we may wonder, is it going to make any difference if we determine to show some kindness? If we determine to show some appreciation? Is it going to make any difference if in the midst of all of this arguing and so on, we try to be peacemakers? Is it going to make any difference? Can we make a difference? Well, if everyone did, I showed you a little heart, and then I showed you several more. If everybody were to say, I'm going to do my part, it may not be much, but I'm going to do what I can to make the world a happier place. Well, if everybody did that, it becomes a big deal, and we might end up making a much bigger difference than we would ever expect. Folks, I'm delighted that you came to see my magic show tonight, and thank you that here at the end of it you let me share a little bit of my heart. We try by way of the tricks and illusions we do to make smiles and laughter appear, and I hope all of us are doing what we can to make this world a happier place. Good night, and God bless. So you see what I mean? That's not my biggest trick. It's not my most amazing trick, but there's really a feel-good thing. It's not overly preachy, but it nevertheless says something that people walk out and they say, yep, that's the kind of thing I want to support. That's the kind of thing that I want to attend, and I want my friends to attend. So this is what I mean by confirmation. You've made your chart, and under that confirmation, you look for tricks that have a sentimental hook to them, that somehow have a feel-good kind of a message. So let me review. The key concept, everything that I've talked about falls under this idea, and that is to build a good show, we must build it around emotions and psychology rather than around props and equipment. It's not about props and equipment, it's about how the audience feels and how they need to feel. And the basic psychology that we apply can be labeled or identified by way of 5 words, and we need to achieve these psychological goals in order. First, excitement, then identification, then involvement, then solid content, then confirmation. Well, to wrap this up, I have just a few comments to make. First of all, to my fellow gospel magicians, some of you right now may be confused. You're saying, Dwayne, you just went through this whole thing and you never gave one gospel message. I did it deliberately. I did it because I want to make the point I'm making right now, and that is, as gospel magicians, we need to learn how to communicate. We can't take the easy route. And you say, what do I mean? I mean this. As Christians and people who work in churches, we know what church people like to hear. You might say we know the amen triggers. So even if our show isn't up to par, even if we're not as sharp as we should be, if we say Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, everybody needs the Lord, people are going to be happy to hear that, and church people are going to be on our side because we agree with their message. And so sometimes gospel magicians don't develop the skills they should because they know all they have to do to be liked by the church is state that message again. Go to one of those amen triggers. Well, is there anything bad about that? Yeah. What's bad about it is if you get out in front of a non-church audience, a non-believing audience, all of a sudden you don't have the amen triggers to rely on. You can't just start saying the church words that make everybody say, oh, that's great, wonderful, amen. Because this crowd doesn't know the Lord. They don't know church. And so the only way you're going to be able to communicate to them is if you really understand the principles of communication, which essentially are Proverbs kind of wisdom. So in this presentation, I deliberately left out the gospel message to make the point we need to know what I'm talking about in sense of structure here and in sense of what you might say the intellectual aspect of communicating, where it's emotional for the audience, but I'm saying by our minds, our intellect, we need to understand what it takes to effectively communicate. So I wanted to show you how this works without the gospel messages, but of course, if you're doing a ministry show, if you have a chance to share the Lord, you're going to put your gospel messages into it. And if you know me at all, I've written countless books and videos or produced videos that show you how to have the message. My heart's with the message. I'm very committed to giving the message, but I'm also understanding I need to be able to communicate with people who maybe don't know where I'm coming from and maybe have never been to church in their lives. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. Second thing I wanted to say is that I did not use music with the tricks I showed in this presentation, and that too was a deliberate choice. In a regular program, I always use music. Almost every trick I do has music. Why? Because a good show is about emotion, and music triggers emotion. Music makes it so easy, because if I want a sense of excitement, I just play exciting music. If I want sentiment, I play sentimental music. So music makes it easy. And I trust you know how to use music, and you do use music, but I thought I should show you, because I'm teaching this psychological structure, that even without music, and today I didn't use it, even without music, if you understand the steps, the formula, and you work it, you still can impact the audience on an emotional level. You can still reach the heart if you know how to structure a show. So you can see how well this works without music, and then you can imagine how wonderfully it works when you add music to coincide with the emotionals or the emotions that need to be created at various points in the show. The third thing I want to mention, I said I'd circle back to solid content. About solid content, remember I said that's where you'll do a number of tricks in a row depending on how long the show is going to be. The audience is ready to relax and watch you in this time, but be careful not to go too long without another audience participation trick. For if you're not careful and you do several tricks in a row where people are just watching you, you lose the us, and it goes back to them and me, or them and you. And you must not lose that sense of us. So maybe you'll do 2 tricks that don't involve a volunteer, then the next one does involve a volunteer. Then one doesn't, and then another one does. That kind of thing. So never go too long without having something happen that makes the audience feel they're a part of what's going on. So, I think I'm near the end of this. How do you put a show together? My dog Bosco has been here for the whole time, and now he decides to make some noise. It's okay, Bosco, we're almost done. Anyway, how do you put a show together? You put it together with an understanding of the psychology of an audience experience and your need to follow the progression of that psychology. We identify that progression. The formula that we offer is excitement first, identification second, involvement third, solid content fourth, confirmation fifth. Confirmation means whatever we close with, it's designed to make them walk away with a good feeling. So if you've made your chart, you've got those words on it, if you've listed tricks under it, when it's time to do a show, you just look, okay, here's an excitement trick, here's an identity trick. You just pick the tricks out from each category, you do them in that order, and you have a show that should work very well. Now, I'm done, but I do want to comment as I sign off that I'm anxious to get feedback from you. I love talking about this kind of thing, and as I said earlier, I had to leave a lot out. There's a ton of material that could go into this. I trust what I've said is enough to help you feel like you got a good understanding, but I'm willing to talk about it more. Depending on your feedback and your questions, I'll decide how to talk about this more. Do I make it a seminar here at the theater, or do I do something else at the theater? I just want to know how I can be most helpful so that all of us can do a really great job of communicating. And of course, those in this Fellowship of Christian Illusionists, that we are doing a really great job of communicating the gospel. Don't forget to check out LaughlinMagicStore.com. Things I did today, this was not a lecture designed to sell you things, but the things I did today I'm sure are there, or the techniques are in videos like the sponge ball routine, that kind of thing. And also, if you can't find a particular prop, or you have a personal type question relating to the magic I did, just reach out to me at laughlin.magic@yahoo.com. That's laughlin.magic@yahoo.com. Please come and see us this summer. We need your support. This is our first season in a new place. The biggest challenge in a new place is folks knowing we exist. If somehow you could come to cheer us on for one of our shows this summer, we'd love it. We open Memorial Day weekend on Saturday night. Maybe some of you can come up then. We'll make it a magical day. Anyway, for now, I better stop talking. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.